Welcome to the American Red Cross Blood-Borne Pathogens Training Course. Here, you'll learn how to prevent disease transmission through blood and other potentially infectious material. Let's begin with some background information. Blood-borne pathogens are disease-causing microorganisms that are present in human blood and other potentially infectious materials. Blood-borne pathogens can spread when blood from an infected person enters the bloodstream of a person who is not infected. In the workplace, primary concerns are hepatitis B virus, hepatitis C virus, and HIV, because infection from any of these viruses can have serious, long-term effects on a person's health. Despite the health effects, there is no way to tell whether a person is carrying a blood-borne virus just by looking at him or her. In fact, an estimated 4.4 million Americans are living with chronic viral hepatitis, and most do not even know they are infected. Because of this, it is crucial to take appropriate preventative measures when handling blood or other potentially infectious materials. People from many occupations may be at increased risk for exposure to blood-borne pathogens while at work. Fortunately, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, requires employers to take appropriate measures to protect at-risk employees from on-the-job exposure to blood-borne pathogens, including training courses such as this one. However, the responsibility for lowering the risk for on-the-job exposure to blood-borne pathogens is not solely the responsibility of the employer. Employees must also take responsibility for their own health and safety. This course will give you the knowledge and skills you need to protect yourself and others from contracting a blood-borne disease on the job. We share the planet with millions of microorganisms, many of which cause us no harm, and some of which actually benefit us. However, some microorganisms, called pathogens, are capable of causing disease. Our bodies are equipped with many natural defenses against infection-causing pathogens. Healthy, intact skin and mucous membranes help to prevent pathogens from entering the body. Areas of broken skin, like a cut or rash, could allow germs to enter. When this happens, we depend on our white blood cells, which patrol the body and destroy pathogens that may enter. In addition to our natural defenses, antibiotics and vaccinations are also available to help us fight and prevent infections. However, while these defenses are helpful, infectious diseases are still common. You can better protect yourself by understanding how infections are spread. For infection to occur, 6 requirements must be met. This is called the chain of infection. The first requirement is a pathogen. For an infection to occur, a microorganism capable of causing disease must be present. A pathogen will require a reservoir, or a place where pathogens can grow and multiply. Possible reservoirs for pathogens include human bodies, animals, insects, bodies of water, and food. Once the pathogens have multiplied sufficiently, they must have a way of leaving the reservoir. This is called a portal of exit, and varies depending on the pathogen and the reservoir. When the reservoir is a human body, for example, the portal of exit may be the respiratory tract, the digestive tract, the reproductive and urinary tract, or breaks in the skin. To get to another person, a pathogen will require a method of transmission, which can be direct or indirect. Direct transmission means the pathogen is passed from one person to another through physical contact. Indirect transmission means that pathogens are spread by way of a contaminated surface or object. To complete the transmission, the pathogen must find a portal of entry. Just as the pathogen must have a way of leaving the reservoir, it must also have a way of gaining entry to a new reservoir. In the case of person-to-person transmission, potential portals of entry include the respiratory tract, the digestive tract, the reproductive and urinary tract, the eyes, and breaks in the skin. Finally, the pathogen must enter a susceptible host, or a person who is capable of becoming infected with that particular pathogen. Eliminating just one link in the chain can prevent an infection from spreading. Employers and employees share the responsibility for minimizing exposure to bloodborne pathogens. To protect workers, employers are required to adhere to the OSHA Bloodborne Pathogen Standard. OSHA requires employers to maintain a written exposure control plan. This plan outlines the protective actions that will be taken to eliminate or minimize occupational exposure to blood or other potentially infectious materials. It also describes procedures that will be taken if an on-the-job exposure occurs. Engineering and work practice controls are identified in the exposure control plan. Engineering controls are tools that employees can use to protect themselves and others from exposure. These include personal protective equipment, biohazard waste bags, and biohazard sharps containers. Work practice controls are procedures employees should follow to protect themselves and others from exposure. These include the use of PPE, disposal of contaminated materials, safe handling of sharps, and proper cleaning of equipment. In addition to establishing an exposure control plan, employers must provide proper training about risks associated with bloodborne pathogens and how to minimize these risks to all employees who may be exposed to bloodborne pathogens. Employers must also offer a hepatitis B vaccination to employees who are at risk of exposure. An employee may refuse the vaccination, but if later decides to accept the vaccination, the employer must provide it. As an employee, you should know and follow your employer's exposure control plan. Make sure to use the tools your employer provides and follow the procedures your employer has established to help keep you safe. It is especially important that you use standard precautions and treat all blood and other potentially infectious materials as if they are known to contain bloodborne pathogens. Follow these steps to remove soiled gloves. First, pinch the palm side of one glove near the wrist and pull the glove off so it is inside out. Holding the glove in the palm of your gloved hand, slip 2 fingers under the wrist of the glove. Pull the glove off inside out so that the first glove you removed is inside it. Dispose of your soiled gloves properly and wash your hands. A spill of blood or other potentially infectious materials must be cleaned up promptly and properly. To protect yourself and others, follow these steps. First, block access to the area to prevent others from potential exposure. Next, gather your cleaning supplies. Use the supplies specified in your employer's exposure control plan. This might include disposable tongs, disposable absorbent towels, a solidifier, disposable scoop and scraper, a biohazard bag, a biohazard sharps container, and 10% bleach water disinfectant solution. Then, put on the appropriate personal protective equipment according to your employer's exposure plan. You should always wear disposable non-latex gloves when coming into contact with blood or other potentially infectious materials. You might also need a gown, shoe covers, eyewear, a mask, or a face shield. Before cleaning up the spill, remove any sharp objects using tongs or a disposable scoop and scraper. Never use your hands. Remember to dispose of the sharp object in a biohazard sharps container. Wipe up the spill using disposable absorbent towels. Dispose of the towels in a biohazard bag. If available, you can also use a solidifier to absorb a spill. Just pour the powder onto the spill and scoop up the mix. Dispose of soiled materials in a biohazard container. Put on clean gloves. When using a bleach solution, always wear gloves and eye protection and ensure good ventilation. Then, flood the area with the disinfectant solution. Also, be sure to let the bleach solution stand on the surface for at least 10 minutes. Finally, use clean absorbent materials to wipe up the disinfectant solution and dry the area. Dispose of all soiled materials, including your personal protective equipment, in a biohazard bag.